Hello everybody, welcome back to our model writing videos and welcome if you're new here as well. It's great to have you along. Today we will be looking at two task 1 questions for the IELTS writing part of the exam. So task 1, you'll be presented with some data. It might be in the form of a bar chart or a pie chart or maybe multiple different charts. And it's your job to report back on that data, select the main features, and make comparisons where relevant. So the task never changes, it's just the data that you have to adapt to. So that is what we will be looking at today. And we're going to start off by having a look at maps. Now, maps can cause some problems for students. They tend to, because they're a bit different, it tends to maybe trip students up. They're not sure what to do for their overview and they're not sure how to structure things. So we'll break it down today and I'll show you exactly how I would approach this type of question. Okay, so the diagrams below show changes that have taken place in the Sowry district neighbourhood since 1920. Summarise the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, let's have a look at the maps. Here they are. So we have up here the Sowry district in 1920 and the Sowry district in 2020. Important to note that it's all in the past, so we will be using past tense for this. Okay, so let's have a look at what's happening here. Well, it goes from a relatively, we've got a few houses and one shop, relatively quiet district to a much more built up. We've got apartments now, we've got more houses, we've got more shops, to a more built up district, more developed area. So it goes from, yes, maybe it goes through industrialization here and then comes out in a more modern district. Okay, so how would I put this together in a plan then? Well, maybe for my first grouping, I would think about new additions. So we need to group this. Grouping can be tricky for maps, so this is what I would do. So anything that is completely new. For example, we've got, we can talk about the apartments. The apartment blocks that are now here. We can talk about the, we've got the bike path and the bridge now. Bridge, bike path. The school has been moved, but it has been expanded. So I guess we can talk about this. Maybe we could talk about the school in this situation because it's changed here, whereas this one looks like it's probably, or maybe it's used. We'll mention it in this one. I don't think it matters too much. Okay, so new addition. Then we have changes. So we had changes to the Tulbug Brothers Cannery. That turned into the Yang office complex. We had changes to the, if we mention the school, oh, well, actually we can mention the school changing to the local petrol station. Did anything else change? Those are the two main ones. We've still got the road here, the river, the beach. Oh, well, actually, we could use the bike path and say that it went from a beach to a bike path. So let's put that there. Okay, then. So this is our map, and we're going to state that for our overview, we want to say what kind of area it was before and what area it is now. So in 1920, Sari district did not have many buildings, whereas in 2020 it was more developed. We will we'll obviously expand that a bit more in the essay itself, but there we go. You have an idea of what we can do there. Oh, okay, let's just move this up there. Okay. Right, so I think that's good. We've got our two groups and we've got our overview there, so you can see how we've put together our ideas. Okay then, so if we go to the write-up here, I'll show you how to put this all together for this question. First thing we need to do is we need to paraphrase this first statement here. The diagrams below show changes that have taken place in the Sari district neighbourhood since 1920. So we could say the maps display differences in the Sari district, we'll keep that the same, community, in 1920 and 2020. The maps display differences in the Sari district community in 1920 and 2020. Okay, so let's start our overview, and we want to include a nice statement like on the whole, perhaps. On the whole, this area has gone from a maybe we could say Sari district in the first map did not have an extensive amount of structures, whereas in 2020 it was more developed with it was more developed, or it was more built up with various developments, maybe. Oh, okay, let's read this back. On the whole, Sari district in the first map did not have, maybe in the first picture, did not have an extensive amount of structures, whereas in 2020 it was more built up with various developments. Okay, I think that's good. So let's go into our first group, which is going to talk all about new additions. And the first new addition we can talk about is the apartment blocks, perhaps. So the 100 years saw a number of new builds, of entirely new builds be erected. Saw a number of new entirely new builds. I think the tense is off here. The 100 years saw, maybe we could say within 100 years, a number of entirely new builds. Number of entirely new builds were erected. Okay, let's talk about the apartment blocks. The significant introduction of multi-story or multi-level apartments, and we want to use directions as well, so where things are situated. So they are running south of alongside Oak Avenue, and the north side here actually. Be seen in 2020 with placed alongside, so we're using directional words like this, alongside Oak Avenue to our we can just leave that there, alongside Oak Avenue. Okay, we're not actually given where north is, so maybe we can, instead of using north, east, south, west, we can use where things are in relation to each other a bit more. Okay, can be seen in 2020, placed alongside Oak Avenue, maybe situated alongside Oak Avenue. What else is completely new? We've got the bridge, and we can talk about the school maybe. So another construction to appear was the extension of the road running towards Elmwood River, and in fact the inclusion of a bridge to allow vehicles, I'm guessing vehicles, to cross over the body of water. Okay, so that's the bridge. Now let's talk about the primary school. Okay, so we're not sure if it's a new, maybe they just moved it, but we'll include it in the new construction anyway. Okay, so closer to, or maybe we can say furthermore, closer or next to Miller's Lake. Miller's Lake is where the school was repositioned, was placed in 2020. We could talk about the trees or the foresty area, replacing a wooded area, replacing part of a, or maybe next to Miller's Lake is where the school was placed in 2020 after demolishing part of a wooded area. Okay, I think that's good. Let's read this back and see how it's sounding. Within 100 years, a number of entirely new builds were erected. The significant introduction of multi-level apartments can be seen in 2020, situated alongside Oak Avenue. Another construction to appear was the extension of the road running towards Elmwood River, and in fact the inclusion of a bridge to allow vehicles to cross over the body of water. Furthermore, next to Miller's Lake is where the school was placed in 2020 after demolishing parts of a wooded area. Okay, I think that's good. We've got our new structures. Now we can go into some changes as well. So let's talk about the beach to bike path change, and of course the Toolberg brothers to the Yang office complex and the school to the petrol station, as well as some new conceptions. We could say this time also witnessed some changes in the already existing buildings. The most striking one being the Toolbug Bros Cannery transforming into the Yang office complex, which in the latter year sat, maybe we could include where it is here, the Toolbug Brothers Cannery, alongside Oak Avenue again, transforming into the Yang office complex. Okay, that's the big change there. Let's talk about the school then. Additionally, where the Prestwich primary school used to be, later became the Lonoco petrol station. We could do a nice just above Miller's Lake. Just above Miller's Lake. Okay. Now we can just finish off by talking about the beach and that turning into the bike path. So the beach seemingly was, if we demolish, maybe destroyed in favour of a bike path to run alongside or parallel, to run parallel with Elmwood River. Okay, let's read this one back and see how we're doing. This time also witnessed some changes to the already existing buildings. This time, these two time frames also witnessed some changes to the already existing buildings. The most striking one being the Toolbug Brothers Cannery alongside Oak Avenue, transforming into the Yang office complex. Additionally, where the Prestwich primary school used to be, later became the Lonoco petrol station, just above Miller's Lake. I like a nice bracket there. The beach seemingly was destroyed in favour of a bike path to run parallel with Elmwood River. Okay, I think that's good. We've just gone back and checked for grammar, mistakes, spelling, made sure it sounds okay, made sure that we've include linking phrases, things like that. So this sounds good. Let's check the words now. Okay, so after having a look at the words, this now comes to 187 words, which I think is a good, achievable amount of words. You can see how we've split them up into groups, and we've started with our paraphrasing and our overview. So we approach every task one in the same way. We just, for this one, we slightly tweak the language to make it more appropriate for maps. But nevertheless, we can still use the same structure there. I hope that's been helpful. Do let us know what you think of this question. I know this can cause some issues, so yes, hopefully that has simplified it a little bit for you. Okay, well, with that being said, let's look at the next task, and this is going to be a bar graph. Now, bar graphs are quite popular. They can be on their own, or they can be with other charts. And for example, you might have a bar chart and a pie chart. There might be more than one bar graph. So definitely something to be confident in doing the bar graph. Okay. The question. The bar graph shows the total number of book sales for 5 genres of books for 3 years, from 2013 through 2015. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So we've got the same task. We summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, and we make comparisons where relevant. Okay, let's have a look at the bar graph. Right, so we have the 3 different years. We've got the total number of sales. The numbers here on the x-axis 0 to 1600 here, so increments of 400. We've got the key for the different years, and here we've got the genre: fantasy, romance, mystery, thriller, sci-fi, science fiction. Okay, so I think this is quite a straightforward bar chart. Let's have a look and think about how we can group this together then. So we could group them, we could do 2 years together and another year on their own. It's tricky because nothing is equal, even numbers here, which I'm sure is absolutely fine. Some of you out there might be like me, we like the even numbers, but sometimes we might have to group with odd numbers, and that's okay. Never worry about that. As long as there's a reason that you've grouped them and you can demonstrate that reason and show the examiner why they are together, then that's the only important thing there. Okay. So as I was saying, we could do them by year, or we could do them by genre. Maybe there's 2 genres that are quite popular, for example, fantasy and romance. And then maybe I would do the other ones in one. Or we could do them by number of sales. That looks a bit tricky. I think I'm going to do them by genre. That's what I feel like would be the easiest way to do this. And I'm just going to tie in the 2 highest, actually just highest sales, fantasy. Closely followed by sci-fi. Then we have science fiction, thriller, and mystery. Okay, the overview then. Romance seems to be the most popular. Books sold the... Let's do the total. Sold the most books throughout the 3 years. When did they sell the most? Maybe, well, particularly 2013 and 2015. Particularly 2013 and 2015. Okay, I think that's good. So we've got our two groups there, and we've thought about our overview. Right, well, let's go to the write-up, and we are going to do, oh, this is a different size there, that's okay. We're going to do this statement, and we're going to paraphrase it. The bar graph shows the total number of book sales for 5 genres of books for 3 years, from 2013 through 2015. We could change the word to bar chart maybe. The bar chart displays information regarding how many books were purchased in different categories for 3 years, 2013 through 3 years to 2015. Let's have a read back. The bar chart displays information regarding how many books were purchased in different categories, another word for genres, in 3 years, 2013 until 2015. Okay, so we can say something like at first glance. That's quite a nice way to introduce. At first glance, romance novels. Or maybe we could use novels here actually. How many novels were purchased? Romance reads were the most popular overall, particularly in, well, 2013 looks a bit bigger, so let's say 2013. At first glance, romance reads were the most popular overall, particularly in 2013. Okay, so let's start our first group, which is going to be fantasy and romance. And we're going to say that they are the most popular. So the two most bought type of book overall were fantasy and romance stories. Okay, so this is when we can go into detail and give some figures. And they both, well, they sold, we've got differences of 400 increments. So this is 1200. Here would be about 1400. So I'd say both over 1300 perhaps. Or yes. Both selling over 1300 in total. Okay, so we grouped them together here. Let's go into more figures. So that's the overview. Let's talk about romance being the most popular, and maybe we could talk about overall and different years as well. Okay, so romance was, so we have 1400, 1500 was at the top at 1500 in total. And securing 600 of these in 2013. Okay, now we can talk about perhaps fantasy and how this grew in popularity over the years. So, fantasy took in I'd say 1400, nearly 1400. Received nearly 1400 buyers. Fantasy received nearly 1400 buyers. And the interest grew over the 3 years. 2013 witnessed 200 about 300, roughly 300 sales, whilst, or maybe on the other hand, the last year in the study, just another way of saying 2015, how many did that bring in? So we have a whole 400 here. This probably totals up for another 200, 600. Did approximately 600. Okay, let's read this back and see how it's sounding. The two most bought type of book overall were fantasy and romance stories, both selling over 1,300 in total. Romance was at the top at 1,500 purchases for the years combined, maybe, securing 600 of these in 2013. Fantasy received nearly 1,400 buyers, and the interest grew over the 3 years. Maybe we could say, and unlike romance, 2013 witnessed roughly 300 sales. On the other hand, the last year in the study attracted approximately 600. Okay, I think that's good. We've just gone back and tweaked it a little bit there. So let's have a think about our second group. This is when we want to talk about science fiction, thriller, and mystery. Okay, so how are we going to group these all together? Well, they're the least popular three. So we could say the other genres were less popular. They were witnessing about 1,400 and less. That's below 1,400 total sales. Okay, so that's how we're showing the examiner how we're grouping them together. Okay, let's talk about science fiction and thriller being over 1,200. Science fiction and thriller. Maybe another way of saying books, paperbacks. Both both had over 1,200 1,200 purchases have we used? Yep, we've used that. Receipts for the entire study. Let's pick a particularly interesting part. So science fiction did well in 2013. Actually, they both did well in 2013. Both peaking in 2013. Let's do it respectively. So science fiction, 400, 600, about 500, and then maybe 450 there. 500 and 450 respectively. Okay, so that was a good year for them. Actually, science fiction did quite well in 2014 as well. So we have about 300 here, and maybe we've got about 1,050 here. In fact, science fiction also saw high figures in 2014, 300 and 200, just over 500, we could say. 500. Okay. Now we can go into our mystery group. So, meanwhile, mystery drew in the least interest out of all of the genres, and it was 800, 1,000, 1,000, roughly, approximately. Around 1,000 for the study, for the 3 years, maybe for the 3 years. However, it did well in 2013. So even so, just like thriller and sci-fi books, it did well. It had its maybe we could just say, just like thriller, just like the thriller sector, it had its most successful year in 2013. 400, 600, 500. Seeing 500 books go to happy customers. Okay, let's read this back and see how it's sounding. The other genres were less popular at below 1,400 total sales. Science fiction and thriller paperbacks both had over 1,200 receipts for the entire study, both peaking in 2013, 500 and 450 respectively. In fact, science fiction also saw high figures in 2014, just over 500. Meanwhile, mystery drew in the least interest out of all the genres, around 1,000 for the 3 years. Even so, just like the thriller sector, it has had its most successful year in 2013, seeing 500 books go to happy customers. Okay, I think that's good. Let's count the words for this one. Okay, so this comes to a total of 190 words there. So you can see how we've approached this with the two groups, we've paraphrased, and we've done our overview as well. So this is the way that we structure every task one. If you've been with us before, then you'll notice that doesn't waver. But of course, what information you use, of course, the data changes. So that is what we are practicing and dealing with the change in the data. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you for coming along and sticking with it through the maps and the bar charts. I hope that's been useful for you. If you've got any questions or comments, then do let us know, and we'll see you in the next one.